Today we're at the Frankfort Cemetery here in Frankfort, Kentucky. And we're looking for the grave of the First Lady of Wrestling, Miss Elizabeth. Got it right there on my shirt. Let's go see if we can find the grave of Miss Elizabeth. Today we're in a cemetery in Frankfort, Kentucky, which is the capital of Kentucky. And we're looking for the grave of a wrestling icon, Miss Elizabeth, who was Macho Man's manager. Now, Miss Elizabeth was born in Frankfort, Kentucky. She graduated from the University of Kentucky with a degree in communications. She got a job at the International Championship Wrestling as a TV announcer.
Hello everybody, welcome to another sensational hour of International All-Star Wrestling. I'm your hostess, Liz Hewlett.
And while she was there is where she met Randall Popo, also known as Macho Man, Randy Savage. Oh yeah! And they married in December of 1984. Oh, look at this incredible stone. Now, saying the Macho Man was an intense guy is an understatement, with his screaming, "Oh yeah" voice, while Miss Elizabeth was quiet and graceful, but the two worked beautifully together. Liz was the catalyst of many of her husband's TV feuds, the most famous being the rise and fall of the Mega Powers that started when Hulk Hogan saved Elizabeth from the Honky Tonk Man and the Hart Foundation. Still arguably one of the best storylines in WWE history. Now, of course, knowing that Randy and Elizabeth were married in real life was TV ratings gold for the network. Watching their roller coaster romance unveil at the ring, it was a Romeo and Juliet meets a Bonnie and Clyde. And here's her grave right here. The iconic First Lady of Professional Wrestling, Miss Elizabeth Ann Hewlett. Born November 19th, 1960. Died May 1st in 2003. Now, me and my brother, we used to love watching wrestling. There was Saturday night's main event, and it was right when it was starting to become a big deal back in the 80s. And Elizabeth was definitely part of a lot of those great storylines. I remember when they had a whole episode of where Macho Man had all these male managers, and they were all in the ring saying, "He's definitely going to pick me to be the manager. He's definitely going to pick me." And then all of a sudden, the lovely Miss Elizabeth here came down, and the crowd lost its mind that he didn't pick some male manager. He picked the lovely Elizabeth to be his manager. And another storyline that me and my brother used to love is him and George the Animal Steel would always be at each other, wanting to fight each other. And George the Animal Steel was this big, hairy, gross, ugly guy, and he had a green tongue, and he would eat the turnbuckle. And they had to have a Saturday night's main event. George the Animal Steel won. He got to keep Elizabeth as his own manager. But luckily, Randy Savage stepped up and kept the manager for himself. Those are just a few of 100 stories that we used to love watching back in the 80s, and it was thanks to Miss Elizabeth that made those times great. Now, even though Macho Man and Elizabeth would continue to work together for much of their careers, in real life, Elizabeth and Randy filed for divorce in 1992. And soon after, Liz took a 4-year break from the WWF until 1996, when the Hulkster brother introduced her into the WCW. This is also where she would first cross paths with wrestler Lex Luger. Now, Miss Elizabeth eventually left the WCW when her contract expired in 2000 and began working at Lex Luger's gym in Georgia, where they formed a relationship. Now, I don't want to speculate, but from everything I read, it was a very unhealthy relationship. In April 2003, the two were involved in a domestic dispute. Luger was charged with a misdemeanor battery after police found Liz with numerous bruises and cuts on her face. He was released on bond. But sadly, only a few weeks later, on May 1st, 2003, Luger called 911 to report that Liz had stopped breathing.
Lean down and check to see if she's breathing. Look at her chest, see if it's rising.
Doesn't look like it is. I'm scared to death.
Paramedics arrived at the townhouse and attempted to revive her, but she did not respond. She was taken to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced dead as a result of acute toxicity brought on by a mix of painkillers and alcohol. Ruled an accident, Miss Elizabeth was just 42. Such a young age for someone that could have taken it so far. All right, I got my Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man shirt on, and I thought as a tribute to Miss Elizabeth, I would play that iconic Pomp and Circumstance song, the graduation song I call it, that they would come down to the ring to every night. Here we go. Rest in peace, Miss Elizabeth. All right, now like I do with all the famous graves I go to, I want to leave a few mementos for Miss Elizabeth. I've got this trading card that I've had since the 80s of Miss Elizabeth and Macho Man here. Randy Savage, oh yeah! Snap into it. So we leave that there. I'm also going to leave my YouTube magnet. Now if you come to the grave of Miss Elizabeth to pay your respects, feel free to take my magnet if you find it. But leave the trading card of Macho Man and Elizabeth for Elizabeth Ann Hewlett. All right. Well, that's going to do it for today. And until we meet again, I just want to say thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Now, as a little extra clip, here at the Miss Elizabeth Cemetery, there's also the famous American settler Daniel Boone. He's on top of the hill over here, and I can tell you already the views are amazing. And to be honest with you, I haven't thought about Daniel Boone since probably 8th grade history at Eastern Heights. I would have never imagined I'd be at his grave. Just kind of a funny coincidence there. And here it is, the grave of Daniel Boone. Oh, I see a historical placard. I'm a sucker for those. Oh, here we go, it says right here. The grave of Daniel Boone. And there he is, etched in stone. Amazing. Here, I'll let you take a screenshot and I'll read a couple lines. It says, Daniel Boone's grave, born 1734, died 1820, entered Eastern Kentucky in 1767. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but take a screen grab, and if you want to read the rest, what I really want to show you is this amazing view out here. And look at that, right across the river. That's the capital of Kentucky right there building. Amazing. You wouldn't think that the capital would be in Frankfort, Kentucky. It'd be in Louisville or Lexington, but there it is. All right, that's gonna do it from the capital of Frankfort, Kentucky. Over and out.